Once again, as happens with these momentous occasions, be it weddings, births, funerals, you have all of these key figures gathering. In this case, because it's not really about the broader kingdom, it's really three of the factions, let's say. The Velaryons, the Targaryens, and I say three because the Targaryens are kind of starting to split. Right, and so they are gathered at Driftmark to bid farewell to Laena Velaryon, who was Daemon Targaryen's wife, with her having, I guess you could say, having committed suicide last episode. Again, this thing of marriages bringing these families together. But because there's so much division between the various factions, let's say, when they gather for these events, more often than not, it creates an opportunity for some kind of drama or something to go wrong. And this most certainly does not disappoint. It's a sad enough occasion with them being gathered there for the funeral, but it really sets the tone for things to come. Gathered on Driftmark, the weather is pretty dreary. The skies are gray. It's not, a bright and joyful scene. And that continues on throughout the episode. You see the colors get even darker. So during the funeral, it's not really raining or anything like that, but the skies look dark and gloomy. It looks like a drab, dreary kind of day. And as the episode progresses, you notice the colors get a lot darker as well, right? There's no brightness or sunshine, and it really matches the mood of what's taking place in the episode. This continued division, deeper dividing between these houses. During the funeral, everyone's gathered, whoever the guy is saying some final words for Laena. And the camera kind of moves around and you see the various characters looking at each other. And there's like exchanges between some of the allies, but then also exchanges. And all of this takes place without them actually saying anything, right? You just hear the priest's words. But the body language and the eye contact that's exchanged speaks volumes. One notable thing is you see not so much Rhaenyra, but you see like Alicent kind of at points looking at Rhaenyra and looking at others as well. There's like an exchange of eye contact as well between Viserys and Daemon, and then other people as well, where it's like these different people who have had drama and whatnot, you see them exchanging eye contact. But even here, like once, the official burial takes place and her, I guess you could say like sarcophagus or something like that is lowered into the water, the funeral part of it breaks up and you then have the aftermath, I guess like a repast of sorts, where drinks and whatnot are being shared about, and, you have them kind of clustered into small groups chit-chatting, which is what typically happens at funerals. But you get the sense that there's like a great deal of tension here, where things have occurred, there are hurt feelings and whatnot, and adding to that, you have this rather sad occasion as well, where you get the sense that there's a lot bubbling below the surface. Something to note is that Hightower is back. Like when we see him, he's dressed in all black as usual, but it's not spelled out in words. The way that we know that Hightower is not just back, but he's back as the Hand of the King, is he has like this little creepy looking lapel pin with like this bony skeleton hand and a wand of sorts, it looks like, on his lapel, which would indicate that he's now the Hand of the King, or he is once again the Hand of the King. Having Hightower back, it shows that Alicent and Larys' machinations have worked. Regardless of the accusations that might have been levied against Viserys and however he might have felt, we don't see what exactly is said to him, but we see that they've been able to talk him into inviting Hightower back as Hand. Which says a lot, because you think about the accusations that he levied against Hightower, it kind of makes you think, well, number one, it says two things. It shows that regardless of how him and Alicent came together, that he listens to her, that she has his ear. And that can spell problems for the future. The thing about House of the Dragon is that with its twists and turns, it can kind of throw you off balance. So, I'm watching the episode, and you have a scene between Rhaenyra and Laenor where they're discussing their marriage, and that while well-intentioned, this agreement that they made really isn't working out for either one of them. Laenor has tried to do as much as he could to keep up his side of the bargain, but his heart just isn't in it. Rhaenyra as well, they're both shortchanging themselves by being in this marriage. And ultimately they have some degree of fondness and respect for each other, as they're honest with each other and show their true selves to each other in a way that they don't necessarily do with other people. Basically, this marriage can't continue because it's getting in the way of their true happiness, right? And it's also bringing about problems. Rhaenyra's solution to this is her and Daemon are watching Viserys and Alicent and their kids and whatnot set sail for home. Alicent had a conversation with her father where instead of being disgusted by her behavior, he was actually impressed by how far she was willing to take things. And actually, instead of telling her to set this kind of behavior aside, he instead encouraged her to do more. This is the course of action. And then provided her with advice as far as how to smooth things over with Viserys. And so we see her, Viserys, and the kids setting sail on this voyage back home with Aemond on his dragon and Aegon on his and whatnot. So we see they now have, 3 dragons between, over on the green side. At the same time, you have Rhaenyra and Daemon where they're watching the other Targaryens set sail for home. And this is really just a break in the action because it's like the milk has already been spilled. The line has been drawn, and this is just really the waiting period. But war is going to break out. And Rhaenyra, standing on her own, would be vulnerable. Having Daemon in her corner, she would have more of a chance, right? Again, this thing of alliances. And so here, where she actually makes a pretty keen observation that fire has given House Targaryen, and the two of them in particular, a lot, but it's also taken a lot from them as well. Where fire, meaning through the dragons, has helped House Targaryen onto the Iron Throne, and has helped to keep them there. And thus has put Rhaenyra and Daemon in line for the throne. At the same time, fire has taken a lot from them. So this thing of being Targaryens has given them great privilege, it has put them in a position of power and authority, put them in line to the throne, but at the same time it's taken a lot from them, where number one, it places great requirements on them, it asks a lot of them, it requires them to make sacrifices, their lives aren't completely their own, and in a physical sense, it's taken a lot from them with regards to Laena and also Harwin Strong, as both of them died by fire. And so Rhaenyra proposes to Daemon that they should unite, as it's the only way for them to succeed, to persevere against Alicent and the Greens. And so they create a plan to get Laenor out of the way, because that's the only way. Now, back to this uncle-niece business. The way for them to unite is to marry. And the only way that they can do that, at this point, Daemon has now lost 2 wives. This would be, no, right? 1, 2. Yeah, he's lost 2 wives. This would now be his 3rd. The only way for them to get together would be Laenor would have to be moved out of the way. And so initially, I was caught off guard by this because I was sitting there hoping, like, Laenor's a pretty nice guy, you know, and Rhaenyra says this herself. They come up with a plan that the only way to get him out of the way, or to clear the path for them to marry, would be that Laenor would have to be dead. And immediately I clutched my pearls. I was like, oh my goodness. You know, and there's some talking back and forth. They lay this plan where Daemon goes to Laenor's current lover, and who's sort of like his protege of sorts, right? Laenor is this guy's sponsor, and explains to him that, you know, you can leave here and there are places across the sea where you don't need a title and you don't need a name, you just need money. And so at first glance, it seemed like Daemon was paying this guy off for him to kill Laenor. And I was there and I was like, listen, now, Laenor is a pretty nice guy. And I just got over saying that I'm not at all Team Alicent, taking Rhaenyra's side. But if Rhaenyra kills Laenor, like, then I don't have a dog in the fight, right? Because I'm not going to take her side either, because he's such a nice guy. And so I was actually quite pleased to see that when it broke down, they kind of faked his death instead, where they had this fight of sorts, a sword fight, break out between Laenor and his guy. And it's like, by the time the guards and whoever else rush in, there's this body in the fire, burned beyond recognition. Again, this thing of fire, right? Where it gives, but it also takes. And here you have it where the Velaryons rushing in, meaning Corlys and Rhaenyra rushing in and seeing this body in the fire, they've just lost their daughter. And from their perspective, they've now also lost their son, their last surviving child. There would be likely some questions as to what role, if any, Rhaenyra played in this. And with that, you have the potential of it driving a wedge between the two families, the Targaryens and the Velaryons, right? So you have this thing of fire given and taken away. And it's actually quite a rather smart plan, because we then see Laemon and his lover escaping on like a boat to a ship, where he's like shaved off his dreads. He has like a low cut haircut, so he should be less recognizable, and it would at least give him an opportunity to get out of this part of Westeros to someplace where no one knows him, and him and this lover can start a new life together. And at the same time, it frees Rhaenyra to marry Daemon. And we see this isn't just like a regular marriage, right? It's like a blood pact of sorts. We see them cut each other's hands, cut each other's lips, where, you know, like whatever the symbol is, like they like smear blood on each other's foreheads. They cut the palms of their hands and kind of like clasp hands, and it's bound together. So it's like a blood tie kind of situation thing. And we see the 4 children watching on. Thanks for tuning in. To ensure you don't miss any episodes, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, go ahead and click the thumbs up button if you like what you saw, and go ahead and share it on social media.